Hello everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here today with you. As a huge fan of TED Talks, I have always imagined of standing and telling a story. So this is a dream come true for me. And I hope that as I will be talking more on the technology part of TED, as you know, it's technology, entertainment, design. I hope that it will be also entertaining enough for you. I have been working mainly in the university, but also in the business. My passion is energy and the transformation of the energy sector. I think that it affects everyone, so I hope it will be interesting for you. And I also hope that you may find something interesting in my story, a place for you, something to achieve and to be part of this development. I will be talking about the so-called Third Industrial Revolution. As you may know, the first Industrial Revolution started in the middle of the 18th century, related to steam power, to machine tools. The second energy revolution related to the invention of electricity, the internal combustion engine, etc. And according to some experts and according to Jeremy Rifkin, we are now witnessing the so-called Third Industrial Revolution. What this means, it means that we are going to produce and consume energy in an entirely new way in the coming century. It means that we are going to use smart buildings, smart cars, smart grid. It means that we'll get more and more renewable energy, that we'll use energy storage technologies at hydrogen, etc. So my story is about the myths that this Third Industrial Revolution will destroy. The first myth is that energy in our world is abundant. You may think that everywhere you go you can find oil or coal or natural gas. Actually, it gets harder and harder to get energy resources. It may be more expensive, but it may also require more energy to get energy, or the so-called energy return on energy invested. So now we go farther, we go deeper, to find our gas, coal, or oil that we use. And the so-called low-hanging fruit is no longer so low, so it's getting higher and higher. So this is one of the myths, that energy is still abundant for us, so something has to change. The second myth is related. It is that energy is cheap, so everyone can afford energy. We can buy it at whatever price because it's a small part of our budget. So because of many reasons, energy is no longer so cheap. So you may find many people who are called energy poor or fuel poor. This means that they have to get more and more of their incomes to keep their homes warm in winter, or they need more and more money to use for transportation. So we have to have this in mind in the coming century, that energy is no longer cheap. And not everyone can afford it. The next myth. When you listen about energy, you always imagine the so-called fossil fuels, the ones that I presented in the previous slide. Coal, gas, oil, but energy can be also got through other means. So for instance, the new climate policies, the Kyoto Protocol, if you wish, or the European Emission Trading Scheme, they force us to look and support other sources of energy. So now the society is more and more willing to use renewable energy sources, wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, biofuels, and also maybe, this is disputable maybe, but they wish to pay the price for this change. So energy is not CO2 anymore, and it will be less and less CO2 related. The next myth. When we speak about rising prices, everyone thinks that this will mean larger bills for electricity, for gas, for heating, etc. Actually, there is a solution which is getting more and more used in order to stop the transferring of high costs to high bills. It's called energy efficiency. So with different solutions, starting from smaller cars, or from using A-class fridges, or from replacing the electricity bulbs. We can use energy efficiency in order to keep our bills, to keep our expenses on energy in some respectable limits, even though the single price of energy, the unit price, may be going high. Another myth, energy is a monopoly. So there is one company, one vertically integrated company that gets everything for us. As you know, liberalization, this is a very popular topic, means that actually we can unbundle the whole vertically integrated electricity and gas sectors. What this means? This means that there will be a part of this sector that is a natural monopoly, which will operate the respective grids. But there is a place for competition from the generation of energy resources to the transformation of energy resources to the trade with energy resources. So this is a whole new business. In many countries, liberalization is now on the way, including in Bulgaria. So this means for you that this is a new chance where you can look for an opportunity. Next myth. No one ever asks consumers about anything, so consumers don't matter in the whole energy sector. This is not true. As I already mentioned, you have different tools to change things. One tool may be changing your efficiency. So you can try to be more efficient. This is something closely related to consumption. Another tool, consumers can have more choice, choosing their own suppliers, choosing to be maybe entirely free from the system. Consumers can turn themselves into the so-called prosumers. So your house, with the new technologies, can produce large part of its energy consumption. This means that you can be almost entirely independent from the energy system, a whole change of the paradigm. Another myth, energy means big. When we talk about energy, we imagine the big power plants, the big lines, etc. Actually, statistics shows that in the last years, new generation capacities, new power plants, they're larger by number, but smaller and smaller by unit size. This means that it is easier to build a small photovoltaic or wind power plant, biomass, etc., than to build a large nuclear or coal-fired power plant. So again, changing the paradigm. It means that liberalization can also be not only choosing different suppliers, but also producing your own energy or investing in an energy producing capacity. And you can see what the International Energy Agency predicts for the development of new sources. Exactly because it is cheaper by an absolute value, because it is easier, faster to build new renewable sources, it turns out that more of the new sources in the next years will come exactly from this type of technology. When we speak about the transition, the smart grids, what is going to happen with our cars, electric vehicles, etc., many of us may think that the technologies are still not ready enough to provide this. Actually, most of the technologies that we need are already around us. So the engineers, let's call it this way, they have done their job. They have invented new ways to fuel our cars with biofuels or with electricity. They have invented new ways of communication between the power grid and our homes. They have also invented different ways to remotely operate the appliances in our home. So you can switch on and off your air conditioning while you're at the office. You can program everything. So this myth is over because the technology we need is already here. And you can see that we have different renewable energy sources present. We have the electric cars, we have the energy storage, we have the communication technologies to make this work together. What we still miss, however, is a good economic model of interaction between all of them. If you imagine the old system with the large power plants, with the large producing capacity, with the big share of fossil fuels, and if you imagine the future system, which means smaller capacities, which means liberalization of consumption and also production of energy, which means changing our behavior as consumers, this transition will require a lot of efforts by everyone, by the society as a whole. So new capacities in terms of human skills will be needed, new knowledge, economics, management, etc. Everything will matter during this change. Many of you may think that you are not part of this transition, so what does energy has to do with me? How am I affecting what is happening? Actually, with every single decision you take, what type of car to buy, what type of house or an apartment, how big would it be, what type of energy source to use for heating, with every single decision you take, you are supporting or not entirely these energy policies. So for instance, if you choose an electric car, you make a very strong participation in this process because you say, I'll not use the fossil fuel, I'll use electricity. If you decide to build solar panels on your house, to be independent, this is a very strong decision. It also affects the whole system. So everyone is participating in this process. And the good thing is that everyone can benefit from it and can be an active participant in it. And maybe the most important, the final point that I would like to share with you, I believe that everyone in this room, and maybe mostly economists and business administration students, can be an active part of this transition. Traditionally, the energy sector was for engineers only, which means that it was a little closed for outsiders, it was not following economic rules, it was something special. Not anymore. And here is a picture of some of my students at Sofia University from the master program with the long name. Yes. They're from economic background, they're from engineering background, and all of them are equally interested in this new transition. All of them want to see, to touch how energy technologies work. All of them want to change the world around us. So I believe that every one of you can take part in this transition. It can be from the economic point of view, from the technical, from the managerial, from the marketing, but I think you should consider to become part of the third industrial revolution. It will depend on every one of you. Thank you.